probably know who Nikola Tesla was. I've studied a lot of brilliant figures in history. Welcome back to Open Your Reality. If you clicked on this video, you probably know who Nikola Tesla was. I've studied a lot of brilliant figures in history, but Tesla has to be one of the strangest geniuses that ever lived. But then again, when you have an IQ as high as Tesla, that's kind of expected. While many videos on YouTube discuss the life and inventions of Nikola Tesla, I want to get right into the oddities and idiosyncrasies of this fascinating genius. Don't get me wrong though, I'm a huge fan of Tesla, his work, and what he stood for, so this video is in no way meant to denigrate him. But I think we all love mad scientists, and Tesla definitely ranks among the weirdest of all time. So let's jump on into it. I think you'll really like this one. While still a young student, Tesla's older brother died from unfortunate circumstances involving the family horse. Perhaps due to his brother's untimely passing, Tesla threw himself into his studies with iron discipline, bordering on madness. Similar to Isaac Newton, Tesla took it upon himself to approach his schooling with a maniacal drive to be superior to all other students. This obsession lent itself to a rather unfortunate incident for Tesla. At one point, Tesla decided to read the complete works of Voltaire, the famous French philosopher. However, Tesla didn't realize that there were 100 volumes, all written in small font. However, he had already started reading the works, and being he was obsessive, could not rest until all 100 volumes were read. The task nearly drove Tesla to a mental breakdown. So now I want to get into some of Tesla's oddities as an adult. In 1884, at the age of 28, Tesla arrived in America to work with Thomas Edison, who was to become his rival. Tesla experienced extreme ups and downs in the United States, at times being wealthy, and other times being so broke he had to toil in the streets as a day laborer to make ends meet. But it seemed wherever Tesla was, whether in his lab or dining at the Waldorf Astoria with the ultra-rich, he always wore a black Prince Albert coat and used silk handkerchiefs. He never wore jewelry, being afraid of most forms of it. One of Tesla's oddest phobias was a fear and dislike of pearls. He actually disliked round objects in general, but pearls made his teeth grind and he would avoid them at all costs. One night, while being introduced to the beautiful daughter of J.P. Morgan, Tesla immediately noticed her pearl earrings. For the rest of the night, he completely avoided her. Incidentally, Tesla went to his grave an unmarried man.
No ile? Ile razy już widziałeś taką reklamę, że wystarczą ci 3 tygodnie, żeby nauczyć się programowania i później od razu dostajesz swoją pierwszą pracę. Najważniejsze to tylko kupić ten kurs. Jeżeli szukasz...
Was never known to be in a romantic relationship and is said to have died a virgin. Getting into his experiments, Tesla was a wild man when it came to X-rays. Tesla was fascinated by the new technology and repeatedly exposed his head to X-rays in order to stimulate his brain, like it needed any more stimulation. After hours of exposing himself to this dangerous radiation, Tesla finally figured out X-rays were not so harmless, as his skin began to resemble something from Night of the Living Dead. As a result, he promptly stopped X-raying himself. While Tesla predicted he would live to the ripe old age of 140, he actually died at 86, which is still not bad considering his atrocious diet. Perhaps the X-rays shortened his life. Tesla also suffered with scatophilia, which is a love of the dark. Around 1913, Tesla declared he wanted to live in the dark. When he would arrive at his office around noon, he would quickly draw all the shades. Apparently, he was most productive in the dark, probably because he conducted many of his experiments in his mind. His employees would frequently hear him talking to himself in the dark office. What's strange is that this behavior is in direct contrast to his desire to eliminate nighttime on Earth. Earlier in his career, one of his greatest dreams was to create perpetual light in the sky, presumably by introducing high-frequency currents into the upper atmosphere. Fortunately, this never panned out, and I think we're all happy for that. While Tesla's whole life was a symphony of strangeness, perhaps his strangest behaviors came in old age. Towards the end of his life, Tesla became a columbophilic. This is a person who falls in love with pigeons. But Tesla went beyond the dictionary definition. He actually loved pigeons in an intimate sense, usually reserved for, well, other people. While Tesla could have been one of the richest people in the world due to his brilliant inventions, he spent the last years of his life penniless, living in various hotels on credit and nursing pigeons back to health. It didn't matter what kind of pigeons they were: fat, thin, black, white, healthy, sick. Tesla loved them all. He fed them, housed them, and cared for them. But there was one particular pigeon that Tesla loved above all the others. This love affair is so strange that I will let Tesla describe it in his own words. I quote, "I have been feeding pigeons, thousands of them, for years, but there was one pigeon, a beautiful bird, pure white with light gray tips on its wings. That one was different. It was a female. I would know that pigeon anywhere. No matter where I was, that pigeon would find me. When I wanted her, I had only to wish and call her, and she would come flying to me. She understood me, and I understood her. I loved that pigeon. Yes, I loved her as a man loves a woman, and she loved me." Tesla continued on and on about the bird, but I'll quote a few more notable sentences. Quote, "That pigeon was the joy of my life. If she needed me, nothing else mattered. As long as I had her, there was a purpose in my life." Tesla then describes how the pigeon flew into his room one day and told him she was dying. He said strong beams of light, as real as anything he had ever produced in his laboratory, beamed from her eyes afterwards. Tesla said of the pigeon's death, and I quote, "When that pigeon died, something went out of my life. Up to that time, I knew with a certainty that I would complete my life's work, no matter how ambitious my program. But when that something went out of my life, I knew my life's work was finished." Wow. Upon the pigeon's death, Tesla walked into his office carrying the bird's corpse, wrapped in cloth. No doubt Tesla shed some tears over the death of perhaps the only living being he ever truly loved. Tesla asked a friend who lived in the suburbs to give the bird a proper burial on his property. When his friend was about to deposit the bird in a shallow grave, he got a call from Tesla. "Bring her back, please," Tesla said. "I have made other arrangements." Nobody knows what Tesla did with the pigeon, but he clearly had a very strong attachment to it. Some have speculated the pigeon symbolized his mother. Interestingly, Tesla's love of pigeons did not detract from his love of eating squab, which is young or baby pigeon. I know, crazy, right? You can't make this stuff up, folks. At one point near the end of his life, Tesla was evicted from one of the hotels for not being able to pay his bills. Tesla had 2 secretaries at that point, and hadn't paid either of them in weeks. He felt so bad, he offered to cut his gold Edison medal in half and give it to each secretary. They declined, instead offering to give him money. Tesla only had $5 left to his name, which was reserved for his bird seed. Towards the last years of his life, Tesla lived almost entirely on milk and Nabisco crackers. He was so afraid of germs he rarely ventured near people, wishing to keep a good distance away. On January 7, 1943, Nikola Tesla died at the age of 86, alone in his hotel room. After not hearing from him for several days, a maid decided to ignore the Do Not Disturb sign on his door. Slowly creeping into his dark room, the maid discovered his emaciated corpse in bed. I truly believe Tesla was a tortured genius. He was born with unbelievable abilities, but it caused him to become one of the strangest and twisted geniuses in history. Overall, I think Tesla was a good man who just wanted the world to be a better place. This is evident in that he gave away millions during his life and rejected the opportunity to become wealthy. Anyway guys, if you like this video, let me know in the comment section if you want me to make other videos of strange geniuses in history. There's a whole bunch of them. I was thinking of making one video on all of them, but there's so much juicy weirdness in each genius that I think they warrant their own